Hey everybody, welcome to Making Awesome, episode 13, Protect and Sell. We're talking about product development. We're on the tail end of it now, talking about some legalities and other such things. So, you know,
Yep.
buckle in, strap in for a wild ride of legalese.
No crazy
Not just
legalese.
legally.
We,
We're
we,
bringing in real lawyers.
we will be.
We will be. Yeah, I was going to say that's in the works.
Not in this episode, but in a future one, we're going to talk all about just straight patenting. And oddly enough, it's not going to. That one will not be a boring episode because the lawyer that we're going to bring in is awesome. But Thomas, I am disappointed in you. You had us change it from episode to chapter, and you
now we're
still
going back to
said
episode.
Yeah, I like to keep it fresh. I don't want anyone to be able to pin us down.
Oh well,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Mhm.
Anyways,
Yeah.
we're gonna be talking about product development round 3. This is protect and sell, and that's how to protect and sell that awesome, right? We've taught you a little bit, and these are all just remember very low level understandings. You kind of get the idea, but God, it would take us many podcasts to go through it hardcore, and quite frankly, we would lose all of the 10 viewers that we have. So, and of course, there's a
nobody's
peanut
got that
gallery
time.
that you might be able to hear laughing outside. We have a buddy of mine is here working on a couple of projects of his, so you might hear him laugh at my crappy jokes every now and then. But anyways, I guess before we get into it, as always, let's hit the billing department and talk about 3D Musketeers, which is our continued supporter here on the Making Awesome podcast. 3D Musketeers serves to take your ideas and make them real. So a lot about what we've talked here is from actual experience that all of us have in working with 3D Musketeers, most of which, if you are watching us on YouTube, you can see behind me. But 3D Musketeers helps you go from art to part. And if you have any desires to make awesome, please, links in the description. Reasonably down below, I would think. I don't know where it is on Spotify and iTunes, but I don't really care. It's somewhere. You can find it. I have faith in you. If you've gotten this far in this podcast, you've likely heard me talk about this more than once. Anyways, let's hit it, gents. So we're going to run right into the hardcore stuff, and let's talk about patenting, okay? The first thing that every inventor is like, oh, I need a patent. Oh, I need a patent. Stop it. Stop it. You do not need a patent. Not yet. Have you made 10,000 things? Are you going to make 10,000 things? If the answer to those are no, you don't need a patent yet. Now, provisional, get that done. They're like $285. We talked about it in the last episode, I believe.
Yeah,
I think
it just preliminarily protects you for a year.
Yep.
Lets you get yourself going.
And if you don't have sales in 1 year, if you're still in the product development stage, great, you can file a new provisional. But if you're not in the product development stage anymore, it's time to probably let that baby go and find a new one. Don't take that to heart. Do not let your child go after a year. We don't need more infants in orphanages. Anyways, but the big thing with a patent is if you can't defend it, having one is kind of worthless. If you don't have $100,000 of liquid capital ready, willing, and able to be spent at the snap of a finger, and your life would not change, a patent would be very tough. Now, if your goal is to sell your product to a company, right? A company's going to hand you a fat check, take your IP, and move on. They're buying that IP. They're not buying your part. They don't really care about your part, most likely. They care about that patent. That patent is what they're paying for. But if you're just going to sell it yourself, if you're doing, like, let's say short run manufacturing, like via 3D printing or resin casting, then you don't necessarily need a patent. You need to work with a company that's willing to sign a non-disclosure so that you're safe, or one that you trust, because honestly, same deal with non-disclosures. If you can't defend them, they're kind of useless.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing that we want to hit right up front with patenting is if you don't know ask an attorney. Now, you can come to 3D Musketeers or Making Awesome first. We'll happily talk to you about it, but ultimately, we're going to send you to one of the patent attorneys that we work with. We have Vanessa Ferguson, Esquire, I guess I have to put Esquire after all their names, right? And Chris Tanner, Esquire. And Chris has actually agreed to come on and do an episode. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Could be exciting.
Chris is a really, really cool guy and has his hands in so many things. He's probably jumping up and down right now because it is currently December 4th of the date. And the House... No, it wasn't the House. Marijuana was just the vote for marijuana decriminalization just happened. Was it the House that it went through? Let me verify. House, yes, the House voted to decriminalize marijuana, and it did get through. Now it still needs to go through the Senate, so we'll see. Anyways, he's big in the marijuana industry. He does a lot in CBD and does work, I believe, outside of the state of Florida for THC. But he's a really, really cool guy that is incredibly knowledgeable and talks to inventors' councils all over the United States about patenting. So I think he'd be a lot of fun. But patents can vary widely in pricing. So we're going to be launching the Making Awesome Academy or Institute. We still haven't fully decided on that yet. I put it to a panel of 16 people last night. I was just on a mastermind call. And we got 7 for Institute and 7 for Academy and 1 that never responded. Or 2, I guess, never responded. I don't know. I got 14
it's a
responses. Dead heat. Although everybody else that I've asked, Academy has almost always won out. I think Institute is more professional. Academy is more kind of makery school thing.
Yeah, it just might fit the demographic better.
Yeah, I think Academy's going to fit the demographic better, but hell, we could do both. It's not going to hurt us to put both out there. A/B test it and see which one we like the best. But, part of the Making Awesome school, we will say, is going to teach you how to do most of the patent work yourself. Because there's a lot involved here. To get there, you need some people call it a tech pack. We just call it a patent application. But all that stuff. Tad, if you can talk a little more about what those things are and what they mean, that'd be pretty cool.
It varies a little bit by the industry and what type of product you're selling. Like you said, for things like apparel, it's called a tech pack, and it's just a series of drawings that show sort of what the article of clothing entails and all the detailing and what sets it apart from others. That's what you're patenting. A little closer to home for us in engineering stuff, we have the engineering drawing package. And for your patent one, it's not like the kind that you would use to send something to a factory and get it made, where it has all the dimensions spelled out. It's not quite that spelled out, but it does have usually a assembly view, where you have all your components exploded and together, a bill of materials saying what all the parts are, and then you will have individual drawings of your product just from every side, so like imagine a cube, so you look top, bottom, left, right, front, back, and probably a diagonal.
Isometric.
I've seen it that way. Isometric, yes. Just for good measure, that way you can show this is what the product is. And in that regard, specificity is the better, the more specific you can. Yeah, because somebody could change one little thing. I forget what the actual percentage is that they need to change.
8 to 11% minimum.
Which who's deciding what features comprise how much of a percentage of a part? I don't know.
The U.S. Patent Office and 2 attorneys.
Right. So anyway, that's what you need for your product. To be able to file a patent.
And in some cases, specificity can harm you. So depending on what product you have, and this is why it is always good to talk to an attorney. But depending on what it is, it might make sense for you to file a very vague patent
Just for the method,
for
not
the
for the actual
method.
device.
Right, because you have your utility patent and your design patent. Okay, utility is for the product. If I need to explain what a design patent is for, you're listening to the wrong podcast.
Hmm.
But in most cases, inventors will want to do a utility patent, and if it is something that is very unique in its design, you do a design patent. The
Right.
trick with the utility patent is a utility patent is surrounding usage and how a product is used. So a lot of these utility patents are not surrounding the, let's say, the 3D printer,
Yeah.
right? They're surrounding how the 3D printer works. So the good
how,
one
not
is the
yeah.
FFF, or the legal term is FDM, fused deposition modeling. The industry's called it fused filament fabrication because it is fused deposition modeling. FDM is a copyright of Stratasys, and if people use it in their marketing, they can get sued because Stratasys. So that's why FFF has become a big deal. But 3D printers did not become popular until 2008 because that's when key patents ran out regarding how they work, this computer-controlled hot glue gun style of manufacturing. So
Right.
these machines were never able to be in the hands of users because they were so freaking expensive that it didn't make sense. And this is where you really have to be careful. Right? Because
Right.
if you are too specific, you can actually hurt yourself.
You don't want to paint yourself into a corner.
Bingo.
If you go after the method, that gives you the freedom later to change your design of how you're accomplishing that method.
Yes.
Whereas if you just go with the design, you're kind of locked into that, and then somebody could make something adjacent to it, and then say, they take off and they get all the money for it, basically. By just sort of reverse engineering your idea and changing just enough to get away with it.
Yeah.
So
And
you got to be careful.
the goal of the Institute or Academy is going to be to teach you how to do basically everything in a patent application, barring the actual filing of the patent, because you do need a patent agent to do that. That is not something you can do yourself, as far as I'm aware.
And it's costly, so you got to be prepared for that.
It is, yeah. So if you do most of the work yourself, you can save like $3,000 to $4,000. If you have an attorney do it for you, expect to spend at least $5,000 to do it. If you are spending less than $5,000, you need to be making sure where that money is going.
I've heard in the past, like around 7,000 is typical.
Yeah, some easy ones. If it's a very unique product, the patent search can be done pretty easily, so it's cheap. But the patent search is the big thing. And just because you went to Google Patents and searched for your idea does not mean someone doesn't own a patent on it. You may not know what keywords to look for, right? Because if you search 3D printer, you might have a hard time finding the exact patent that Stratasys owned. But if you went for fused deposition modeling additive manufacturing device, you should be able to find it. But why would you look there? That's what an attorney is there for. They're to help you.
Yeah.
And look, absolutely do a, cursory patent inspection. You should be doing that really early on.
Just make sure you're not, it hasn't already been done, because that would be a colossal waste of effort.
If it's done and there is a patent on it, you actually have a pretty cool start, because you can then look at being the one that changes at 8 to 11% minimum.
Exactly.
And instead of reinventing the wheel, you're just putting new rubber on it.
Innovation.
Right? Yeah. You're innovating. And there are 3 monikers for a patent. It must be novel, unique, and non-obvious. If you do not hit all 3 of those, you will not generally get your patent unless you have a very, very expensive patent attorney that is willing to spend tons of money. I just touched my glasses. I am learning what it is like to wear glasses now. It's terrible. I keep touching my own damn glasses because I'm used to not having crap here, and I have to use freaking... Anyways, novel, unique, non-obvious, those are kind of your big deal, your big ticket, big deal items here, because novel and unique is pretty easy to hit. Non-obvious is really difficult to hit. I'm going to try to get the inventor of bunches of balloons on here to tell his story about that. Because he got screwed out of his patent by a company that copied him, saying it's obvious. The way his product works and what it does is obvious. And he did eventually win, but the USPTO allowed the copycat to still produce it.
And that's the kind of situation you can get into.
He spent he spent multi-million-dollar levels to defend this, because this product is worth it. He invented a bunch of balloons. A very, very popular water balloon thing. You just hook it up to your hose, it fills and ties off the water balloons instantly. It was one of the toughest things when I was a kid, like the 3 times I ever played with water balloons, outside of building a big slingshot for a physics class, which was entirely too much fun, and there's a story involving a police encounter for that. There's always a story involving a police encounter for dumb things that I've done in my life.
Oh, of course.
I don't have a police record, which is also the fun part of it. But you know, it you have to be careful. And the bunches of balloons, ultimately, he will do fine, right? He will survive. Money will not ever be an issue to him for the rest of his life. He was just trying to defend his honor, right? That's what he was going after.
This is really an obvious product, isn't it? I'm looking at a picture of it. It's basically a nozzle that has individual balloons on it.
Right.
Like little straws. It's pretty simple.
It is simple, but it's how the balloons are attached and how that whole system operates.
Yeah.
That's the important part of it. And I don't know. For him, I think if you hadn't seen it, it's not an obvious product. If you see his product, it becomes obvious as to how it works.
They're like, aha, oh, why didn't I think of this? That's always the thing. People are always like, why I could have invented that, but you didn't.
Yes, and I'm so tired of people saying, well, you know, I could have done that. Well, then get off your ass and do it.
Yeah,
just
stopping you.
Do it. Because the more you bitch and moan about, I could have done that, I could have done that. Yes, just do it. Look, you're going to FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. If you just complain all the time, you're going to always be missing out. Take the opportunities and make awesome. Literally why we named the podcast why we named it, okay? It's a tough one for inventors, right? Because a lot of them think they need a patent, And a lot of times the answer is no. I'm going to try to get Chris here within the next 3 weeks because I don't want to lose the momentum of this one. Maybe get him for next week. That'd be kind of cool. I'll call him when we're done recording. It is fun to have a attorney's personal cell phone number who always answers. That man always answers his phone. That's something that you should note for your attorney. If they take a while to get back to you, you need a new attorney.
Right.
Because clearly you are not important. We actually talked to a client about that. Was that yesterday that we did that live design?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not posted, and it won't be posted likely for quite some time. Although, Thomas, we might be using some snippets from it. We got permission to use some snippets as long as we don't show the product. Like, you know, blurbs about how good we are and how much other people suck compared to us. And just, you know, anyways. So I don't want to get too far into patenting. I think if we just kind of gloss over it, say, look, you might eventually need it. If you want to sell your product to a company, like just say, take my money, leave, and I don't want to deal with this anymore. Or give me money and I don't want to deal with this anymore. That's the right way to say that. You will need a patent, but understanding when that time is appropriate is a big deal as well. So once you have your patent, you should be looking at going into production. And, well, you could do low-run manufacturing with 3D printing. If you're looking to do, I would say, less than 10,000 parts, you should be looking at 3D printing. It may not make sense at 10,000. It might make sense at 2,000 or 1,000. But there will be a break-even point to where you can test your product with just-in-time inventory. Literally, if you're watching us on YouTube, I am printing parts just-in-time inventory for a customer who had 10 sets sell. He ordered 20 because he believes that by the time we can produce these 20, he will have
Another
sold
10 will
10
sell.
more. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we keep I keep at least 10 in stock because he always orders in quantities of 10 and we produce in quantities of 6. Because I can't fit quantity of 10 on the 3D printer. So he wants 20, I'm going to make 18. Or if I'm feeling lucky, I'll just make 24 and hold on to those extra 4 sets. But Tad, production is way more your thing. Let's talk about that. And Thomas, if you don't mind jumping in every now and then and talk about where you can add that branding and where it is crucial in the production process. But there are a few different types of production. So Tad, let's talk about production, yo.
So production, and we've touched upon this in a couple other episodes, but you've gotten your patenting, you've gotten all your prototyping, branding, all this is figured out. Well, now you're ready to take all that and get it made for real, the product that you're going to see in stores. So how are you going to go about that, right? Depending on what your product is like, you're going to want to look at the manufacturing method involved. Say it's some sort of a plastic widget, right? You're going to need an injection mold. And we talked about this before as well, but it's unfortunately cheaper to get it done in China. But there are quite a few downsides to that. Whereas you could get it made in America, which will be more expensive. But here's what your benefit is there. You have direct control over it. It's not going anywhere. And the knockoffs will not follow immediately, right? Because that's one of the big downsides. You get your initial production run made in China, and you pray that you're first to market, because
if you have a good product, expect 90 days. 90 days.
You have that long to sell and make yourself successful, or the variations and knockoffs will be right behind it, and that'll be what will end up in stores, and people will be buying that, and you're going to miss out.
And I know
what you run.
We all talked at the same time. That was pretty hilarious.
Thomas,
you do it.
Yeah, I'll just jump in and say it's that also this is where the branding does come into play and is important because you want to build brand loyalty even before a product is launched. It started to become the new standard is you've already built brand loyalty before you even have the product on shelves.
Particularly when you have against that.
Especially when you have something that's like a direct-to-consumer product, which is kind of what we're talking about right now. If it's on shelves, I think something to keep in mind is if you think about it this way, if you have your brand identity already created before your product has hit shelves and before it has gone into full production, and you're making like an injection mold piece, then can you put your branding on your injection mold? Can you put something that identifies that object even out of box as your product, as it is now? You have built like that idea of quality assurance because it's our product. We've stamped it with like our approval as the makers of this product. So then when you start to get the knockoffs, if people are already loyal to your product, identify.
Thomas,
and so that's huge.
Can you talk about Yeti and their branding and how they don't have anything special, but it's their branding that made them who they are? I assume you've heard of the case study for Yeti, correct?
Just like all the thermal mugs and coolers and just everything.
It's a thermos. It's a public domain item. Their success is purely based on their marketing and their brand. That is it. And Yeti did something that I think, if you have a lot of money, this is totally the way to do it. They waited for the copycats to get kind of a foothold in the industry. It's like Ozark Trail being one of them, the Walmart house brand. And then they went with the cease and desist, because then these companies would have millions of dollars of inventory they can't do a damn thing with. So Yeti went for the kneecap solution versus the and I feel like they did that deliberately, because a lot of people say they want to protect themselves now. And Yeti had their patent, they had design patents. They had their patenting on the way the cup was shaped. That was the key to their patenting. And their marketing, they align themselves with like fishing, right, Thomas?
Yeah. Being like sustainability and outdoor everything, which I mean is huge, and also gaining momentum and track. It's like why Patagonia is so successful. Same idea,
Right.
is targeting that, like that idea of, they're not selling a product, they're selling an idea, which is genius because it works and it gives you an emotional response. They're selling the idea of like the outdoors and sustainability and high class doing that. And so they don't even have to sell the cup. They could have an ad with no cup in it and you'll still buy the cup.
You're right,
Yeah.
because they have coolers.
Yeah.
And that
But
was their
you
vertical
provided,
integration.
No, they did a
Exactly.
great job. I mean, like, they're identifiable also. I mean, it's a good product too. I mean, I have a Yeti mug downstairs somewhere. I don't even know why.
I
think I got it as a promotion. I think I got it as a promotional item, actually.
Yeah, I think I have one legit Yeti mug, and I definitely didn't pay for it. I believe it came as like a promotional item.
Yeah, I definitely got mine from some tech thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a Hydro Flask, and that's also similarly, it's a water bottle. It's a good water bottle, but they also have good branding.
Yeah.
They're like a luxury brand, right?
I don't know
positioned
where
themselves.
they came from and how they did what they did. Do you know anything surrounding their brand and how they got so successful so fast?
I have no idea. I think they probably did really, really, really. If I had to speculate, and this is all speculation, but if I had to, I would say that they had really, really good targeted marketing, and they knew, and they turned it into a trendy item. So, right, they were targeting college kids.
They went after
and then
influencers most likely.
And by targeting influencers and college kids and having like this really durable stainless steel, like coated object that, thermos that has like a single brand on it, which is really, trendy, and it like keeps everything cool. They also, it's so smart if you're targeting college kids because they're taking their water bottle to class every day. And then people are like, oh my God, what a nice water bottle.
Well, yeah, not now, but before, before times.
And so then that
Back
also became
the
synonymous.
Big war, Bobby.
Not only was it trendy, but it became synonymous with like, that's a special water bottle.
Right.
Yeah. It's fancy.
It's not like a plastic Nalgene water bottle anymore because
you're
better than that.
Hey, shitting on Nalgene. Those are still good water bottles, damn it. They're not insulated, and it's funny because technically a Hydro Flask and the Yeti, they're not insulated. They've pulled a vacuum, and it's a lack of air that creates insulation. The whole thermodynamics, that's a topic for a different podcast. But that is all. What is that? Dye stamping, I would guess, Tad. How are those made?
I mean, they're just sheet metal that's been pressed into a cylinder,
and then it's probably welded at the top before it goes to powder coating.
Possibly, yeah.
Because you have to have an inner and an outer cup that need to be connected, but then you also need to pull a vacuum. So I assume during the welding process, they might weld in a bung. That
they could weld in a vacuum. The welding itself might take place in a vacuum chamber.
But don't you need shielding gas? I guess that wouldn't matter because it's normally argon or nitrogen, which are fine.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It might not even have a vacuum. It just could be inert gas. So it might be at atmospheric pressure. I'm not sure.
No, it's pulled at a vacuum.
It's pulled at a vacuum. Okay.
Yeah, they're double wall vacuum insulated. I mean that's their branding. And that's also if you drill a hole in a Yeti, it stops being useful.
I was about to say.
So that comes down to, that just reinforces the idea of, I mean, like there's so many products that you just have literally in your house right now that the branding is on, and you don't slap it on at the end. Like that is an in process, in production thing, even if it's screen printed, even if it's like, I mean, I think the coolest way to do it is to make it part of the product. So like an emboss or like something that's cut into the product with your brand. It's far more permanent. But
kind of example here.
That's stuff to take into account.
I'm holding a bottle of Type Bond wood glue for those that are audio only, and for those woodworkers out there, it's the red one. Which Type Bond am I holding? Type Bond has variants of 1, 2, and 3. I can tell it based on its color. I don't need to read it because they've done their branding of it's red, blue, or green. Spoiler alert: red is Type Bond 1. It's the cheaper stuff. Type Bond, and it's just standard wood glue. Type Bond 2 is mildly waterproof. Type Bond 3, the glue is stronger than the wood you're gluing together.
Exactly,
and that's how
which is what you want.
Right. And I know it's called Tight Bond, but I don't look for the name. I look for the color of the label. I look for the color of the lid, because that's how I recognize my brand. My brand.
My brand.
But
Yeah.
there's totally other wood glues out there, but Tide Bond's always been good to me, so it's who I buy. And they're honestly one of the cheaper ones, and it works great.
Yeah.
But this is blow molded, right? I think it's blow molded.
Yeah,
Although
that's blow molded.
It's got a seam in the middle.
That's blow molded.
Oh.
Because the mold has to open, Grant. It's a 2.5 mold.
Right, you can't pull it out, can you?
No, not unless it's like really soft. Silicone, you can do that.
This is HDPE, high density polyethylene. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Probably not.
it's interesting that you bring that one up, because you could as easily say like, oh, you just make the stickers at the end and put them on. But
That's
the
what they
thought
do.
was put into that product.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they do that, but the cap's red, right? So they
Yes.
manufactured red caps to go with the red bottle.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
So they thought about it. You know.
They did.
You know, things like I'm looking for things that are like that I can pick up that are injection molded.
was gonna say-
Deburring tool, right?
Yeah.
This is injection molded, not blow molded. It is a 2-piece mold. The seam line is right down the middle of it. It's a really, really simple thing, and it will have an internal cavity. So again,
It's got a core.
It
Yeah.
has a core. Yeah, it has a core that goes on the inside. Injection molding is one of those things that if you've never done it, conceptualizing it can be a little difficult, because in your head
We have a whole episode on it, though.
we do. And
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get our injection molding specialist on here. Well, I guess Tad's our injection molding specialist, but the guy that owns an injection molding company that
Right.
is, we work together, Mike from Spectrum. Did I like poke fun at him for spelling my company name wrong on the Thanksgiving card yet?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. I'm going to mention that again just because I can. I mean, really cool for sending out a Thanksgiving card, but really, Mike? Come on, man. Come on. I thought we were cool. Anyways,
Yeah, so we talked about injection molding. That's one way of doing it. Blow molding for things that are like
how does
bottles,
blow molding
that's-
work?
So blow molding, good question. You have like what is it called? A plug of plastic, right? Usually polyethylene. It's just usually like a blob or a cylinder, and it gets shoved in the mold, and it's hot, right? It's already
They heat the
softened.
crap out of it, yeah.
They heat the crap out of it, and then they blow air in through the top, and it fills whatever the shape of the mold is, which is the shape of your bottle or whatever. And then they just lop it off at the top, open the mold, boom, you got your bottle.
So how do they get consistent thickness with blow molding?
It just air pressure. Yeah.
Because
I was so hoping you were just going to say they don't.
I mean, there is some variation. It's
There
not
has to
perfect,
be.
but it's
like,
good enough.
a Coke bottle always
Yeah.
feels like a Coke bottle.
Yeah.
There's never, like, sometimes you'll see a little bit of schmoo that got into the plastic, maybe a little piece of dirt.
Some
Or
flashing or something.
yeah, but it's always got the same amount of squish to it. It's never like, whoa, this one's way stiffer in this area.
Yeah. They just very very carefully, and this is also probably some trial and error. They figure out exactly how much plastic they need and how much air pressure they need to evenly distribute that along the inside of the mold.
In my head, it works like glass blowing. I think a lot of people have seen glass blowing, whether
Yeah.
it's on YouTube or.
Well,
if
and they
you're-
blow mold glass bottles. Like beer bottles are made that way too.
You know what's insane to me
That's
now
fair. I
that you
didn't think
mentioned
about
it?
that.
Like Coke in general, just
Yeah.
Coke as a brand. And I'm talking plastic bottles. So like, let's not even get into the glass bottle, even though they're, they influence each other, whatever. Coke's insane because Coke is selling the drink inside the bottle, but they're also
Right.
selling the bottle, and
They
they made
are.
the bottle to sell the drink. And so their brand is deeply embedded in all of that, like 100%. Like the shape of the bottle, you could silhouette the shape of a Coke bottle, and someone could tell
Oh
you
yeah, and
what
people would be
brand
like,
it was.
"Oh, it's a Coke bottle."
Yeah. And similarly, if you put the plastic bottles next to each other, people would be able to tell the difference from a silhouette between Pepsi and Coke.
Right.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's
Which
some
is
good
pretty
stuff.
impressive,
And they're selling
honestly.
the beverage
Exactly.
at its core. Yeah, so packaging is important. That's what I want to say. And that means branding on that packaging is equally as important. Even if you have
Right.
like a smaller, you're not going to be the next Coke, but there's a lot of things on the shelves if you are going direct to consumer. So those kinds of looking at those examples, I think, is probably a good idea for you generally.
Yeah.
But
It's good to see what else is out there always.
Oh yeah, research.
Yeah. Let's see what other methods of manufacturing. Vacuum forming is another one. So you may know vacuum forming from things like
I know him from like RC car bodies.
RC car bodies, sure.
Like
Lots
stiffer Halloween masks.
Yeah, and lots of takeout containers and stuff. Anything that's thin plastic can be usually made that way. There's like for a lot of things, there's not any one right answer. You can do it a bunch of ways, but like vacuum forming, for people who don't know, is you take a thin sheet of plastic. It's been heated, so it's soft. You have a negative of basically the shape that you're trying to make. It's usually made out of wood or plastic or something. Obviously, a higher heat,
right, like a
plastic.
nylon or something.
Yeah, and then it's got a bunch of holes in it, so it's pulling a vacuum through that, so it gets sucked down onto it, takes the shape of it, and then they take a knife. Usually, it's mechanical, just comes around and trims the edges, and boom, you got your takeout container or whatever. So, but this is obviously all for plastic that we've been talking about so far. Unfortunately, I'm gonna sneeze.
Patient zero.
In this world that we live in, a lot of things are made of plastic, for better or for worse. Plastic as a class of materials is an excellent thing.
Yeah.
The characteristics of it are not so good for the environment, but hopefully we'll be able to get there someday.
Polylactic acid PLA is better, right? It's made from corn
better.
rather than molten dinosaurs.
Yeah, and it can biodegrade, though it takes a long-ass time.
It has to be under ideal conditions, and
yeah,
I guess they're working on some hybridization of a silkworm that can eat ABS and like poop out oxygen and that kind of thing. That's like
we'll get there.
If
we
you're
probably
making a
won't.
product,
we'll be dead by then.
I think it's also important to mention, if you are making a product and you've got the capital to do it and try out a material that is new and also environmentally friendly, that's a marketing point for you.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
If you're creating something disposable and new and whatever, and it's not used in many other products, your selling point has suddenly become what it's made of also. So not only are you making a useful, like, let's say you made a really cool spork that's different than all the other sporks, and now it's made out of like disposable corn plastic, like the really biodegradable stuff. Suddenly people want to buy that because it makes them feel like they're not shitty. And now you have a new selling point for your product, not just that your spork is a little bigger than the other one.
It's like the coated paper straws. Every time I'm out and it's a restaurant that serves it, I can hear someone complaining about it. Shut the hell up. Have you ever seen the video of them pulling a straw out of a turtle's nose? No? Watch it. Then shut the hell up. Because, look, you can get CPLA, which is crystallized PLA straws, and technically those do biodegrade, but how many recycling facilities, one, are equipped to handle PLA? The answer is very few. Two, have the right conditions for PLA to biodegrade in like a landfill? The answer is none. And then three, you're using corn. You need to think about that we have a finite amount of corn that is grown every year on this planet. If you are turning it into plastic, then you need to understand that you're taking food from somewhere else, and you can't complain when the cost of your food goes up.
There is no free lunch.
And it's sugar-free, so it's high fructose corn syrup.
All right.
If you're going into any kind of business that is going to be mass producing a product, I think it is incredibly important, not only in a moral standpoint, but also from your business standpoint,
to look
ethical and your marketing. Again, if we're going to take advantage of it, that's also another thing. And it's not only you being ethical, but you can use that as a marketing standpoint to say, hey, we're socially and ethically conscious of the impact we have on humanity, the environment, and all of those things, from the beginning. Like, know where your plastic is coming from, because if you know that, then you can use that as a way to speak to your audience. If
Right.
you're building
Pisses
that
me
kind
off
of consumer
about
brand.
What?
or what really grinds my gears about the 3D printing industry, right? We tout that we have minimal to no waste, but the damn spools are made out of ABS. It's ridiculous. We could make
Well-
them out of cardboard and save so much plastic, and they would work just fine. But no
I know.
companies do this, and there are ones that
It doesn't make any sense.
well, there are ones that offer master spools, which don't come with a spool. You buy or 3D print a master spool that your filament goes onto. But companies
Yeah.
are moving away from it because idiots don't know how to use master spools, and they end up tangling their filament and then somehow blaming the manufacturer. I think
Yeah.
Prusa has they're working towards solving it. They've got a cardboard inner tube and then plastic end rails. These things, they're injection molded. Is this a one-piece mold? No shit, look at that. All right, well, most of them are two-piece. This is a one-piece. Like, these ones are two-piece. No shit. What? I thought these were two-piece. All right, well, apparently the two spools I'm holding are both one-piece. But they still, I mean, there's... You know what?
I mean, people have made things to like turn them into stuff and
I've
use
got a
them, but
shipping
it's
scale next to me. There's some crap around it, but
How much plastic is that?
How much plastic you guys think a 3D printing spool is?
15 grams, 20 grams.
Well, I have it in ounces. Let me move it to grams.
Okay.
Crap. It's over here.
That was my
232 grams.
Each?
Yes. This
Oh, man,
spool-
that's a lot
this
more than I
empty
thought.
spool. It's Overture. It's Amazon brand, or not Amazon brand, but you can buy it on Amazon. 232 grams. That's half a pound of ABS. Right? This is ABS, or I'm pretty sure it's ABS. It's black plastic. I assume it's ABS.
They should just make those spools out of PLA, and you should be able to send them back to the manufacturer for them to then, you know,
like old school
either-
bottles.
So
either put something new on them, or if they don't want to, they can just, you know, turn it into filament, right?
this used to be a thing. This actually was a thing. But the expense of shipping something this big is pretty damn high. And users said, well, I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Why would I pay for you to recycle my spool? You know, we used to throw them away, and I feel like an asshole for throwing them away. So out where 3D Musketeers is located, we do not get recycling. So we have to manually take it to a recycling center. And you know what? That's what I do. I manually take the spools to a recycling center because I know they're ABS. I know they're clean. They've got one little sticker on them, but that's no big deal for the recycling process. It'll burn off in the remold. But it's frustrating because, you know, we tout minimal waste in the industry, but we have a massive amount of waste in the spools themselves. And I know that is so, like, tangential from what we were talking about, but I think if
It's worth talking about.
And Greengate specifically, I'm talking to you because I know your owner and I talk with him often, and I know he's working on this, and it's why it's fine. I'm like, oh crap, he's right. They're working on going to an all cardboard spool, which I don't think is that difficult. You need the die cut or die stamped end rolls with a cardboard tube in the middle, and then some sort of like a hot glue that sticks them together, like a biodegradable hot glue.
Yeah.
And you're done. Even if the glue doesn't biodegrade, you have removed so much waste from landfills and the like that this is just a better move to me.
It's always something you gotta consider when you're designing a product. It's end of life. Not that everyone does, you know. That's one of the problems in product design.
It should be mentioned that it's, at least if you're developing things for the US, it's trendy to be sustainable.
Yeah.
And the right thing to do. So it's working. It'll be more expensive in the beginning, but the impact you have
you get a lot of
may
clout
lead to more sales.
Yeah.
because
Marketing
of that.
wise.
Yeah. So it's a good
very
idea
important.
to keep in mind. Yeah. And if you can't get off the ground that way, then consider it later, you know, if you're sustaining that business.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's going to blame you if you get off the ground using ABS because it's easy and then you look at doing something. If you are looking at going hardcore sustainable, please look at going with a B corporation. We talked a little bit once or twice about corporate filing and companies informing all that kind of stuff. But please do consider a B Corp if you are going to be going hardcore sustainable, because that a B Corporation aligns perfectly with a company that wants to be a very, very sustainable. But, you know, there's methods like die stamping, die cutting. Hell, you can go to laser cutting for metal to do sheet metal work, and then automated bending machines.
You can do a lot of parts out of metal that you can do out of plastic.
But statistically speaking, most of the work that we handle,
It's
I say that
plastic.
when the big job that we're doing right now is metal, but
Yeah.
you know, most of what we do is plastics related, and we're gonna have classes for people that are more interested in doing metal. And part of this school is that it's gonna have different tracks that you can go down, and you'll be able to backtrack and go down a different one whenever you want. I mean, that's the goal. But you know, that way you're not getting, if you're doing product development for plastics, you're not getting videos for metals.
Right.
So once you have your production, right? And I
Yeah.
guess, Tad, real quick, because I know we're going to talk about this later on, kind of ballpark cost, right? You know, obviously it varies. For the love of God, people stop emailing and saying, well, I have a small part. What's it going to cost to produce?
It's like
If
we
you
got to actually
don't
see
give
it
us a file, we can't give you a number.
because it's very specific. You know, say that you got your, I don't know, your average product probably costs mold wise in the
10 to 30,000 range, I would think, minimum in China.
and that's in China. Yeah. The mold alone is probably $8,000, and then you are paying for your first, 100,000 or whatever units.
Right.
In the US, it's going to be more than that, but like I said, you have more control over it. And then, prices are going to vary for sheet metal, for CNC parts. All those kinds of things are going to be completely unique to each case. But once you've got that figured out, and you've got a quote that you like, then you get your production.
Yep.
And, your first shipment comes in. Well, now you're at the distribution part. What are you going to do about that?
And so before we start talking about distribution, Thomas, can you talk about branding and what it means for distribution, whether it's Amazon, Walmart, Target, Walgreens, I don't care. Think of brick and mortar and Amazon as a distribution. What does branding mean, and what does it look like for different retailers?
I think most of all, it's just consistency. If you did work with a designer and they are worth their salt, then you'll have a consistent brand and you'll have elements that will span across all of those things and work together.
Well, they should be, because they should be getting their 2D and branding stuff done through 3D Musketeers, which would run through you. So yes, that would be going through good designers.
It would be pretty good at that point.
I mean, that's understanding, with a good design and good designer, everything, you want to make sure that all of your colors match both on web and in print. People don't realize that colors on the web aren't always actually, you can't sometimes print them. So sometimes, because they're made of different spectrum, we could get into it. RGB is red, green, blue. Everything that's made up on a computer monitor is in red, green, and blue, and it's made out of those colors, period.
But
Print
Thomas,
is
what
different.
about my quantum dot with yellow pixels in it?
There you go.
Oh God.
That was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, we could
It's
get into it.
240 hertz.
Yeah, but yeah. So,
PC Master
but then you get
Race.
into print, which is completely different. So if you chose a color for your brand and you proofed it on screen, you need to make sure that you can make it up in percentages of inks that are printed in manufacturing, which is
Yep.
CMYK, which is cyan, yellow, magenta, and then the K one, which I always forget
Black.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's just black.
Well, and that's why you get proofs. You get your prototypes.
It's
That's very
hugely
important.
important that those colors will match on screen, and because then someone's going to get the product, and you want to make sure that the box that they get it in, or if you have that sort of, you know, branding, that it all matches.
Exactly.
Like that's important.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's a major thing. And then just knowing the difference between what kind of branding you want. This is something that a designer will always take care of. Is web is inherently different than
It is
on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, do you even want to sell on a shelf, and does it help you at all to sell on a shelf, or do you want to just like throw all your money at the internet? Because a lot of people shop on the internet, and almost even more so now than ever before. So is it even worth it to ship stuff to stores anymore, you know, or just have it in a warehouse?
If you're on a computer or on a phone, just go to your browser and type A. I would almost guarantee it's going to autocomplete to Amazon.com.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go to smile.amazon.com, you're doing something wrong. Smile.amazon.com it's Amazon's Smile program, where they donate 0.5% of all purchases to a charity of your choosing. Personally, we use the Amrock Fab Lab here in Tampa, Florida. They're a federal nonprofit dedicated to bringing just really cool engineering, robots, and all that to an area that hardcore needs it. The average household income in a 1 mile radius around the Fab Lab is less than $20,000. That's the household income. That is not one person. Although a lot of times it is one person, but it is the household income. So they're in a very, very rough neighborhood, but they are doing so much good. So we want to help them out as much as we can. And good Lord, do we buy a lot on Amazon. And it sucks that there's no good competitors for Amazon. I guess Jet would be one of them. Is Jet still around?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Jet.com?
No.
And
I don't
that's
know.
exactly why. Okay. A former boss of mine had way too much money in that company and made way too much money on it. Anyways, distribution is kind of a big deal, right? Because you need to look at how your product looks. If you're selling on a shelf at Walmart, you need, if you're hanging, right, you need a cardboard back with a clear plastic clam shell sometimes, although a lot of times it's just the half of the clam shell that's stuck onto the cardboard, so it's up on a
It's vacuum formed.
that is vacuum formed, right? You could be one of the assholes that does the ones, you know, I just bought scissors and it had those packaging
the ones where you have to go
that I
around
need
it with like a
scissors
box knife
to open. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Well,
Why would you
and
make
you'll
a
probably
package?
cut your.
I'm
I always
trying.
like cut myself on it.
Oh my god,
Because
yes.
it's so sharp.
I guess the trick is to use a can opener. I didn't know this.
Really?
I knew these are really great. These are snap knives, but they're number 11 X-Acto snap knives. So they're crazy useful. I use this to open it. A
We got
band-aid
it
on my
nice.
finger, reset the clock and such.
I use X-Actos for just about everything, and the thing that cuts me the most is plastic on packaging.
Yeah,
That's-
it's
yeah.
the plastic that you're cutting, that not the knife.
So stop making your packages so damn thick and make it so people can open it. See, this is
I know.
coming from consumers that literally do product development that are pissed about this because
A
it's
staple
really bad.
at the top is plenty.
A
Or
lot
maybe
of
like a
designers,
little line of glue. That's enough.
You can, I mean, that comes into the whole, like, you know, take branding into consideration again. Like, I think this has just been a fun example and something that people should take to heart is like, if you are going to be and trying to be like a sustainable company that's creating a product that is in some way sustainable, like, think about how your packaging is sustainable. We worked a lot. We have like a program at, you know, my alma mater now, which is a cool thing to say. And that we had a program. It was the Design Spaced Montana State University.
Okay, it's been a while since we talked about it. Sorry.
Yeah, we had a program called the Design Sandbox for Engaged Learning, which brought people from all sorts of disciplines together under the realm of like, how do we take a product from zero to hero? You know, like, how do we take a farmer's beets and turn it into a product that sits on a shelf? And what is that product? Like, so, I mean, and that came into play a lot was, you know, one of the challenges that we faced one year was, how do we create, and I say we, I wasn't doing it. I had people that, you know, the college was, you know, doing these things, but they were creating packaging that was sustainable. And our challenge was to create packaging that was minimal waste, like no plastics, and like how do you make it so that it lasts? So it's all those things that you run into, and yeah, it'll probably be expensive or whatever, but if you're the first one to do those kinds of things, it'll also stand out on a shelf, because for as much color and print and glossy finishes we have on packages, that's going to make matte and raw material stand out so much more. So it's something that you can actually consider as a high quality product, and something that now, instead of saying cheap, actually says luxury when you're using raw cardboard or like a raw particle, like
it's an aesthetic.
stiff paper. Yeah, it's an actual saleable look with your design. And so I think, again, that's why figuring out your branding and your voice early is going to be so important, because now your packaging is directly impacted. So even if your product has nothing on it, your packaging and the way it looks holds the product, and what's written on it will sell your product. So all of that is so important. Yeah. And that's my little tangent.
No, and that's fine. People need to hear this, right? This is a big deal. And then you look at distribution. Everyone wants to be in Walmart. Spoiler alert, it sucks to do business with Walmart. It sucks.
They get theirs.
Oh, God, they get theirs way before you get yours, all right? So Walmart, and this was a few years back, so maybe their policies have changed. They required all the inventory up front, and they paid for none of it until the last product sold. So if you gave them 100 products and 99 sold, and one of them just vanished, right? And of course, let's assume there was no theft. That is an issue that they account for. But if there's still one product on the shelf that doesn't sell, you don't get paid. When that 100th product sells, you get paid net 120 days. So you have to float the cost of the production, float the cost of the shipping to Walmart. They put it on their shelves where they think is appropriate. Now, if you're a big company, you have detailers that will go out and do that for you. I was actually looking at being a detailer for Kraft Nabisco many years ago, right before they split. And I did not get the job because the company split. And their job opening was no longer valid because it was for both, and neither of them needed it anymore. Anyways, I was like 19 at the time, too. Would have been a great job. Really, really good paying. But, Walmart's tough, but where do most people shop? Most people shop at Walmart. And, you can get a Target, Walgreens, Menards, Home Depot, Lowe's.
Menards, there's one.
Harbor Freight doesn't really take other people's products other than their own. There's no Menards in Florida. I just know of Menards.
I was going to say, how would you know about Menards?
Yeah, I was confused. I was like, that is the most Midwest thing that definitely doesn't exist in Florida.
So my background, I have a fundraising background, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of it was with the Geek Group in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And that's Midwest, so Menards.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Menards.
They would definitely have a Menards.
Yep. So, all those stores, they all have different policies. So before you decide you want to sell brick and mortar, you need to know those policies, because those policies can bite you in the ass, especially if you got bills to pay. And a lot of times you're going to. So then we look at online, Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. We're going to talk about Amazon, and there are two different methods. You can be the seller on Amazon, and Amazon will take a non-trivial cut. On 3D printed items, it's like a 30 or 40% cut that Amazon takes. That's why we do not sell services on Amazon. That's ridiculous. And so you can do it so that, you pack and ship it yourself. Or you send a pallet, and it's Amazon FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. FBA requires crazy amounts of volume to be successful. Right, and you hear about all these get-rich-quick schemes doing FBA and reselling. It's the garbage ads I get on YouTube being an entrepreneur. And, I could give you this $100,000, or I could teach you to make this every month. Go to hell. You know how you're making $100,000 a month? Is that you're scamming
people that want to make better for themselves to buy your book or your classes. That's how you're making $100,000. They are spending money and they're not learning anything generally that's valuable. Go to hell. Anyways, FBA can be really good if you have a product that is very, very, very high volume. It is always great to sell on Amazon because Amazon does a lot of that SEO work for you, right? Amazon already ranks incredibly high. Google a product that you use, like vacuum cleaners or something. I would guess within the first 3 links is going to be an Amazon link. Think about how much they pay for all that SEO to get there, okay? And then you also have to play the game of understanding how to categorize, how to advertise. And let's not even get into reviews and all the BS that's been coming out with people that are buying fake Amazon reviews. Now there's websites that are dedicated to figuring out how real some of these reviews are.
Review Meta is a good one.
Yep. And, we went from, we can trust Amazon reviews to, oh, crap, we actually can't.
Yeah.
And we have to look at it. So personally, I never look at the 5 stars. I always look at like the 4. I look at 4s, 2s, and 1s. I kind of generally just ignore the 3s because they're not hot, they're not cold, they don't, they're somewhere in between. But who the hell pays for 1-star reviews? Literally nobody. Who pays for 4-star reviews? Maybe. I would think that's going to be the next big thing, is looking at, instead of 5-star reviews, 4-star reviews, because those are going to be a lot easier to get past the scam detectors. But there's problems there too, right? If your product doesn't have a lot of reviews, very few people are going to take a risk on it. So what we've seen people do is you'll put a $10,000 budget for Amazon. You literally say, hey, buddy, dude, on Facebook, I'm going to send you an Amazon gift card. Please buy my product. And then mail it to me. And then you just get your own inventory back. I don't know if that violates Amazon's terms of service, but what that does is it gives you a bunch of real Amazon users that are buying your product. You ask them to leave you a 5-star review. If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. Statistically speaking, less than 10% of people leave a review on Amazon. So if you see an Amazon product with 2,000 reviews, they've likely sold 20,000 or so units of that product. And so I would tell people, don't stray away from products that have few reviews. You want to look at the quality of said reviews. That's what's important. And Amazon's, that's going to be a whole thing. I'm going to try to find someone that knows a lot about FBA and try to bring them on. I think that'd be a pretty cool guest to have to talk about that. Yeah. What it means, how it, that can kill you overnight. You can.
So really other than Amazon and Walmart, what are your options?
You can sell on your own website. You can do an Etsy store. Etsy's great. Although Etsy's currently having the problem of the suicidal race at the bottom, right? Consumers, we are so used to getting things in 2 days, free shipping from Amazon. We're also used to paying as little as possible. So when we go to Etsy, we're looking at stuff that's cheap, not stuff that's good quality. And yes, there are some instances where that doesn't hold up, but by and large, people are very price driven. And let us be the first ones to tell you, stop playing that game. Do not try to undercut somebody. You are devaluing your own time. That is not how you create a business. That's how you create slave labor for yourself. Yeah. And you don't want to be slave to your business. You want your business to be slave to you. Right?
Exactly. The way that you need to succeed is to have a product that speaks for itself, not to try and be the cheapest.
Right. You can look at Facebook as well. If you have a good following on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, some of the other social medias that I don't pay attention to, you can sell through there. If you have like an apparel clothing line, influencers, while absolute steaming piles of garbage they are, can be very useful in helping your product sell. Same thing with physical products as well. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, we can tie this all right back again to branding. Don't try to be the cheapest, because cheap sometimes sells less than expensive, purely based on the merit of the product, like a Hydro Flask, which is a very expensive water bottle.
How much are they?
Or like your
I don't know, like This one was probably like $40.
Good
something.
Lord, have mercy, Thomas.
However, are people buying them?
Yes.
And are they everywhere?
Yes.
And it's just a water bottle.
I am clearly not their target market, even though I'm
It's a
well
s-
within their age bracket.
It's like a
Yeah.
status symbol.
Well,
I don't
exactly.
give a shit
And so
about
now
status.
people
I
are
drive an
paying.
18-year-old car with a plastic dipped roof.
Grant, we know that, but well, you know what I've heard? I've heard weirdly, it's like a Hydro Flask is like a status symbol among like tween girls,
Yep.
Yeah.
like
I've heard
middle
that too.
school
Well,
girls.
Well, so you're like doing this, by having a more expensive product than other products, you've now distinguished that that's what you are in that market. And sometimes
Right.
people are more willing to, up that amount of money to buy something that they know will either like last, be better for these reasons, XYZ, so don't undercut yourself if you,
Exactly.
believe in your product, because other people will start to believe it too, right? Like if you
Yep.
believe the product is worth that much, it's not a stretch to say other people will jump on that bandwagon and say, "Oh yeah, of course it is," because
Assuming
you
your
believe it.
product holds up to its claims, right?
Yeah, so I guess that's
Exactly.
we're also operating under the idea that your product is good and does what it says it does and is worth what you think it's worth, right?
And
It's just a
ultimately,
lot of
those are
ifs.
all your responsibility. You being the listener, not us being the product development company. Stop telling us we'll do whatever you think is best. That's not our job. Our job is to make your idea. If we were going to make our ideas, we would do it and we wouldn't tell you about it. We're not here to make our ideas. We're here to make yours. God, that pisses me off. Anyways, so now we've gotten into distribution, right? And branding
Right.
is so important for
At this
this.
stage as well.
But it's really important when you decide what the future of your company is. Do you want to pass it on, whether that's to a business partner, to a significant other, to a kid, whether it's your kid or another kid, or do you want to sell it? Before we get into this, what you see on Shark Tank is not reality. Stop it. Mr. Wonderful is not going to offer you $250,000 plus 10% royalty in perpetuity. It is not, statistically speaking, you are not going to get it. Stop it. Shark Tank is a great example of what good editing does. Those interviews on Shark Tank are multiple hours. Generally, the good ones are. And then they're cut down to 15 minutes. I have been involved in reality television more than once. We'll leave it at more than once. And I can tell you, I was involved in an episode of Tanked on Animal Planet, which is no longer running as far as I'm aware. They shot for 3 days, 2 or 3 days, and turned it into 25 minutes. And they had multiple cameras running at all times. So you can imagine how much footage they're throwing away. And this is on a show where they're really going ham with, money. There's a lot of money on the table. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to go into production? Do you want to go into distribution? If the answer is no, and you don't have a patent, get one.
Yeah.
Get one now. Well, provisional, then get your real patent, because your product will not be worth anything unless you have a patent. Because if you go to Mr. Moneybags and say, "Hey, Mr. Moneybags, I've got this product," he's going to say, "Great, Timmy, I'd like to offer you this amount of money for it. Can I see your patent?" "Oh, well, Mr. Moneybags, I don't have a patent." "Okay, Timmy, good luck." And then Mr. Moneybags is going to go and patent it first.
Yeah.
Now,
Exactly.
that doesn't always happen, but that's what most inventors fear. So before you start looking at selling your idea, this does not include getting money. Getting money is different. But selling your idea, you need a patent. Okay, and if you get investors, your investors are going to want that patent because that's where their money comes from, right? That's where their investment is made. You need to ask yourself, do I just want one check and go buy my own private island or, pay off my house? Or do I want to get royalties? So if you believe your product is a high volume product, and you need to know it's a high volume product. If you believe it and it's not true, then it doesn't matter.
if you know your product is high volume and you can prove that it's high volume, work for a royalty, because a check in the mail every month is much better than one lump sum now. And a lot of times you can get a small lump sum, like a $50,000 lump sum, plus a 5 to 7% royalty in perpetuity. That's a great deal if you have a high volume product, but recognize within 2 to 5 years, those checks will likely stop coming. The product will need to be changed. It may fall out of, being cool or whatever it might be. So just be aware of that.
Oh, fidget spinners.
Dude, the greatest thing that ever happened to 3D Musketeers, fidget spinners. We had every Toys R Us in the Tri-County area sending moms and dads and kids to us to make them, because all we had to do was have a good source for ball bearings. And Superior Bearing, I'm going to give Wes a shout out. Thanks, dude, for making that possible for us. We bought so many 608 bearings from him, and he was always making sure that we had a constant supply. We did like $20,000 in sales of fidget spinners in maybe 3 months. It was stupid. We had these little entrepreneurs that would place orders, and they would come and they'd get them, and they'd pass them off to the kid that was with them, take some cash, packet some, give us the rest. It was so cool. I will never forget. And this was a hard business lesson. The kid who made a huge order. It was like 100 of them. 3 days later, his school banned them.
Oh, no.
So the kid was stuck with all of this inventory. And the mom comes back with the kid. And I'm like, hey, how can I help you? The mom said, do you remember us? I said, yep, you guys bought a ton of fidget spinners. She's like, yes, we did. The school has banned them. I said, we don't offer refunds. She said, I know. I'm letting you know what you're about to walk into. I want you to teach my kid a hard lesson. She said, I have agreed to split the cost with them 50-50 so it doesn't hurt them that bad. But I need you to explain how, if you were to give the money back, how it would hurt your business, because you can't resell those, because that was when it was on a downtrend. And it was a really interesting talk where the kid was bawling, like ugly crying. And
it's the worst thing that ever happened to him, probably.
Multiple hundreds of dollars. Yeah. And by the end of it, they left revitalized, right? They had this newfound passion for entrepreneurship because they lost. But there's always going to be the next cool thing. So I'd like to believe they're out there still hustling, you know?
Exactly.
I would have, if I was that kid, I would have started smuggling those bad boys in, selling them behind people's lockers.
10 times.
I wasn't taking those losses. I'd take the contraband to school. What are they going to do? Like, kick me out of school for a bit if they find me selling a fidget spinner in the back of the lunchroom?
I did talk to the mom about that, because that's what I said I would do. And the mom said that she was surprised the kid didn't think of it, but she doesn't want me. She didn't want me to encourage breaking the rules. She said if the kid comes up with it on their own, she's not going to stop them, because that is the right answer is to do it, because there are no legal ramifications to it, and they're still so young that there's no ramifications, right? There's no downside to this.
Yeah. Well, the whole ban is stupid in the first place, but what can you do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, Pokemon cards back in the day.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I actually remember them getting angry at our school about Pokemon cards.
I remember that. I had the Smarties for a while too. You remember that?
Oh yeah, because everyone was like fake smoking them. Yeah.
Because they're like, ooh, Smarties, it's like cocaine. It's like, no, you think self-important teenagers.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, the question comes back to pass on or sell.
Right. And production's really, really expensive. Expect to spend, if you're going to do a good production run, $100,000 to $200,000 minimum, at least. Because if you're getting your productions made in China, you need to fill a shipping container. Most companies will not ship you something in a half-empty shipping container. They won't do it. And also, it's incredibly expensive to do that. You can get one or two made, and they'll airmail it to you and all that. But beyond, you have to look at what those costs are going to be.
Volume, or it's not worth it.
Right. And so a lot of inventors right now are more interested in just selling their idea because that's I don't want to call it a get rich quick scheme, but it's much faster than the long con. Now I
Yeah.
happen to know I know Brian Cinnamon personally. Brian Cinnamon is famous for being one of the top Amazon FBA sellers in the world. He clears billions of dollars a year on Amazon with razor thin profit margins, razor thin, and all he's buying and reselling, that's all he's doing. But he spends millions of dollars in market research before he makes those moves. I had the opportunity to talk with him about this, and he said, he's tried to produce his own products, but he'll never do it again because it is so complicated, and the many ways that it can go wrong is crazy. So, yeah. It's nuts. We always tell people just please, 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 if you are spending your own money, be careful. The best thing to do if you are looking to go into production and you've got everything telling you this is going to sell millions, you've made small production runs for 3D printing and it's gone crazy, get an investor. Because if you fail, somebody else's money is a lot cheaper than your own. It's true. Don't do bank loans unless there's no collateral. Banks don't do that, though, so good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that will take second and third mortgages on their homes, chasing a dragon of a deal, and don't.
It's not worth it.
You will lose your home, and that is a spiral into depression. I should we should have a therapist come on and talk about...
No, you're not wrong.
I'm gonna reach out. I've got one that would love this. I think she'd be all over this. I'm gonna reach out to her. That'd be fun. But then you have to look at vertical integration, right? Amazon now owns the buildings for their fulfillment centers. They do it in tax areas that counties will spend millions of dollars trying to bring Amazon there, offering them crazy tax breaks because they know it's a license for jobs. Amazon will bring thousands of jobs, right? We're near Lakeland. Lakeland has a Amazon FBA shipping center, and they have Amazon Prime Air, which allows you, if you can get the stuff to Lakeland by 3 p.m., it can be anywhere in the country by 10 a.m. the next day. That is ridiculous.
Yes.
Because Amazon not only owns the buildings, they own the people, because let's be real. They own everything inside those buildings. They own the trucks that go deliver to your home. They own the trucks that take the stuff to the airport. They own the airplanes. Amazon used to just buy extra space inside of like American Airlines and Southwest and some of those other companies because it's extra cargo. Use it, right? The companies, the airlines especially nowadays, will gladly take the money. Amazon said, no, we're going to vertically integrate. We're going to buy our own planes.
They went all Carnegie on that shit.
It's so that they don't have to pay anybody else, right? There's all their expenses are just personnel and upkeep. They don't have to pay a premium to get somebody else to do it for them. And it's brilliant. But vertical integration can only happen, one, if you have all of your ducks in a row. If even one duck has strewn aside, you will fail at vertical integration. So be very, very careful about it. Do not attempt vertical integration without unreasonable amounts of money. You will have a very hard time doing it. But it's possible, right? You see a lot of big companies looking at vertically integrating. SpaceX, for example, Starlink. Starlink is, I don't believe it's associated with SpaceX, but it's an Elon Musk company. Elon is utilizing one of his companies to send his satellites into space so that he doesn't need to pay somebody else to do it for him. SpaceX is already incredibly cheap as a means to get things to space, comparatively. So for him to be able to launch his venerable constellation of satellites to bring internet to people all over the world and to do it cost-effective is really his biggest issue of making it a real thing. So he vertically integrated, you know. And it's tough. Vertical integration is going to be a multi-series class that we talk about inside of the Making Awesome School because it is, dude, one wrong step and you are negative hard.
That's an interesting trend that we actually have seen a huge shift in the design industry
Really?
in the past like 10 years. Um, it used to be that design was primarily firms of designers and marketers, and that's what you had. You had like Saatchi and Saatchi, Crispin Porter and Bogusky, and huge like design, basically like mega corporation design firms that would just pump out design for other big corporations and whatever, and also small, like boutique houses of designers that would do other things or freelance, and that was pretty much the structure of design for a long time. But now more and more we see companies creating their own design studios inside of the company corporate structure to make design that is solely and only for that company. It's like what I had when I was working with Lockheed Martin. Same thing. We had a design studio of like 30-ish people inside just the space part of the corporation. And a lot of companies are doing that. Like I know Amazon has their own design in-house. Starbucks has its own design in-house. So does Target. So does Walmart.
So does 3D Musketeers.
Hello.
Hi, Thomas.
So, yeah, I think that's like an interesting thing. And what even gets more interesting is even places that are traditionally like considered creative, like the Walt Disney Company.
Yep.
Previously, they outsourced most of their design work, but recently they created their own design group, which is now like a company that operates underneath the Walt Disney name that solely does production design for Walt Disney. So it's kind of crazy. Like, yeah, wild.
And we're attempting to vertically integrate as a company because, one, I'm tired of just, paying random people from God knows where to do work for us. It's much better for me to pay, a little bit more money, actually a fair bit more money, but get the right people to do the right job that are reliable. So from a business standpoint, vertical integration is so good for us. But we're trying to vertically integrate by adding salespeople. That has been incredibly tough. So if you are listening to this podcast or watching it and you want to get into the additive manufacturing product development industry as a salesperson, please email us. Please. We need more salespeople. I think with that, I think we kind of covered everything we need to cover.
I think so. I think we're about there.
And this, again, very, very, very basic stuff, right? We're not talking high level, crazy, hold your hand through it. This is more just information. We hope you guys enjoyed. I know we certainly did making these. This has been a fun series.
It's been a very good series.
I'm thankful that we remembered. I had to go back and check to see if we recorded number 3 yet. Because we were going to do something else and that would have screwed us up. So I
knew we ended at patenting on the last episode. We were at the provisional patent.
Yes. Yeah.
So I knew we still had some left to do.
It's okay. I'm glad that we made it happen. I'm hopeful that our listeners and watchers got something usable out of this. And as always, call your loved ones. Let them know you love them. You never know when that ability is going to change. Good Lord, have mercy. And as always, keep making awesome. This podcast was and is always supported by 3D Musketeers. If you have an idea that you want to get made real, you can reach out to us at 3dmusketeers.com. Soon to be completely brand new, since I'm going to get a bill for this eventually. I'm going to start marketing it now. Damn it, because this is going to be one hell of a bill, but that's okay, because it's not a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. Anyways, keep making awesome. Take care.
Hey, folks.